My name's Charlotte. I work for Leicestershire Cares, and we've organised this webinar this morning. So we are a small charity based in Leicester, and we link businesses with community groups and schools to help young people and students develop employability skills and have a better chance of getting into work or further education. Joining me today is my colleague Fiona, who's going to be our kind of background technology whiz. And we have Keeley from TT Electronics and Emily from Thermo Scientific. So Keeley and Emily are our business speakers. So I'll hand over to Emily shortly. Just say a big thank you to them for joining us this morning. We hope you find it really useful. If you do have any questions, type them in the chat box. And without further ado, I'll hand over to Emily.
Hi, thank you. Thanks very much, Charlotte. And thank you for attending the webinar today. It's a first for me. I've done a few Speedy speakers, but this is my first Zoom event. So really looking forward to seeing how it goes. So as Charlotte mentioned, I work for a company called Thermo Scientific, and the office that I work from is actually based in Loughborough. Our tagline is that we are the world leader in serving science. So what does that mean? It means that globally we make scientific products. So if you think about your science lab at school, pretty much everything in there is a Thermo Fisher business unit somewhere in the world that makes those products. Not only those sort of products, but products for high-end research and also some hospital products, etc. So scientific products is what we make. We also supply them. So by that, there's a different channel of the business which operates very much like Amazon, and that's the part that I work for. So we are a distribution channel. I used to say that Thermo Fisher Scientific is one of the world's largest companies that nobody's heard of, but actually that's no longer true. And you may well have heard of us recently in the news, because in the UK, Thermo Fisher is partnering with the UK government to provide both test kits for coronavirus and also PPE into hospitals and medical research facilities. And in the US, we have a team of colleagues who are working very hard to develop a vaccine. So Thermo Fisher is getting a little bit more PR time than we previously have done. So my specific job is up until a few weeks ago, I was involved in organising live events for the company. So what does that mean? That means customer shows. Some of you may have been to shows, for example, at the NEC in Birmingham. So it's opportunities for people to come and see the products we sell and get some first-hand knowledge of them and meet with colleagues. And I organise those events across Europe. So I've organised events in Madrid, Berlin, Strasbourg, also training events for colleagues in the company. Our most recent one was in Madrid last year, was in Poland. So I get to travel around Europe, I get to meet some really interesting people, and I get to showcase our products to our customers. So people often say to me, Emily, you know, that's a really, really cool job. How did you get to do that job? And I have to say, when I was your age, when I was at school, I had no thought that this might be what I'd be doing once I got to age 52. So how did I finally end up in what is a really good situation? Well, when I was your age, I actually had no idea what I wanted to do. And I want to impress upon you that it's actually okay to have no idea. And I know it's quite daunting if you think, oh, crikey, I've got friends who think they might want to be a nurse, or they might want to work in law, or they might want to be a vet or something like that, and you actually don't know. My advice to you is, if you don't know, do what you like, because what you like is what you're good at. And if you're good at it, you'll likely get better at it and you'll be interested in it. So right now, when you're thinking about choices for college or A-level, or just moving on to that next step, maybe an apprenticeship or a BTEC, just focus on what you really like, okay? So that's exactly what I did. And I left university and I still didn't really know what I wanted to do. And I took a job which I wasn't really very happy in. And so what I decided is that I would start mailing my CV out to employers and see if I could find something that was more in line with my skills and my experience. And the next point I want to make to you is your CV is really, really important. because your CV is the first thing that an employer sees about you, without knowing anything else about you at all. And what I'd like to stress is that if you don't put it on your CV, the employer has no idea that you can do it or that you know it. And an illustration of this is I sent out, as I say, many hundreds of CVs, and in the most part I got no reply or I got rejected. And I applied for a job for which I had some peripheral skills but not the core skills, and needless to say I didn't hear anything back. However, a few weeks later I was contacted by this company and they said, you applied for this job, you weren't quite what we wanted, but we really liked your CV. In fact, we liked it such that we kept it on file, and we thought if we have a job that might be suitable for you, we'd get back to you. And they did, and I went for an interview and I got a job working for what was then known as Feiston Scientific Equipment in Loughborough, and has since been bought out by other companies, and is where I find myself today. So it's very important that your CV is up to date, that it's accurate, and it really sells you to a prospective employer or for a course, the manager of a course that you might want to attend. So my job when I first started was really around writing content for what were then big book catalogues that sell our products. And as time went on, it became evident that we wanted other ways to contact our customers. So we thought, the business thought we might start some kind of small scale events where we showcase products to customers. And they didn't really have expertise in that area, and they were looking for somebody to take it on. And I said, you know what, I think I could do that. I'd like to try and do that, and I'll give it a go. And so they said, right, okay, well, you start sort of thinking about how we might manage that kind of event. And I didn't have any specific training in the management of events. And so I started at quite a low level, and I found I was quite good at the project management side of it, and I was quite good at the strategy and the creative side of it. And as the events grew and the business grew, it was acquired and went from a UK business to a European business, and now as part of a global business, this particular role expanded as well. And each time there was a challenge or an opportunity. For example, we bought some businesses in the Nordic region, so we needed to integrate Nordic colleagues into the project plan. I wasn't afraid to take on those opportunities. And so I think another message to you is to take any opportunities that come your way and really make the most of them. And what's the worst case is that maybe they won't work out quite how you imagine, but at least you will learn from the experience of taking on those opportunities. And so that kind of takes me to where I am now, albeit things have changed very dramatically over the past few weeks. And I was actually planning for a big event that was due to take place in Barcelona, and obviously that's not now going to happen. In fact, all the events that we have planned at Thermo Fisher for our European business are not going to take place. And we've just announced today that our sales conference, which is a conference for 800 delegates from 21 countries in January, will not be taking place. So you think, oh, crikey, Emily, you find yourself out of a job. But I don't, because there is a huge opportunity that's now opened up, certainly in the short to medium term for the business. And that is, how do we continue to create those events, but in a virtual environment? And that's what I'm working on right now. And this that we're doing here is an example of how we can take the technology that's available and start thinking about how. So my challenge is, how can I connect 800 delegates over the course of a week using new technologies, and not just have meeting streams, but have some team building. I'm sure some of you have been doing some quizzes online, and just before we started this a session, Charlotte was talking about some Zumba classes that were available to get people connected and get people moving and get people doing different kind of stuff. So that's what I'm thinking about in being able to engage these colleagues to get a really meaningful training experience, similar to the live event they might have had, but also different at the same time. So I think my key messages to you are, first of all, it's okay not to know. Right now, it's okay not to know. So just do what you like. The second is for you to be persistent. The third is around the importance of your CV. The fifth is around taking opportunities and doing what you like. And I think when restrictions begin to be lifted and you get to go back to some kind of classroom teaching, it's going to be a very new world, and it's going to be a very new way of behaving for all of us. And I actually happen to think that it's going to be in many respects a better world, that we're going to learn experiences from this that make our lives a whole lot better. So I don't want you to be afraid of the situation. I know there's things on TV about, what's happened with qualifications, etc. It's going to be absolutely fine. And one of the big things is you're very lucky because you're young and you understand the technologies. You're not an old dinosaur like me who's maybe struggled with some of the tech. So be brave, keep working hard, and most importantly, look after yourselves and your families. So I wish you good luck, and it's going to be absolutely fine. Thank you. Any questions come through?
I don't think so. But I was going to ask you a question. So
Okay.
When you have someone apply for a job in your team, what are the things that you look for when someone comes for an interview?
So if somebody came for an interview, the first thing I would look for is that they are prepared. I will typically ask them first and foremost a couple of what I would say are very easy questions. One is, what do they understand the job to be? So really that's repeating back to me the job description that they should have. And you would be surprised the number of people who cannot explain to me their perception of the job. The other thing I will look for is for them to have done a little bit of background research. So I would expect them to have been onto our company websites and to know some basics around Thermo Fisher and my particular channel, which is the Fisher Scientific brand. So I would expect them to be able to tell me what we do at the Loughborough site. And I would say, if I have 10 people come to interview, probably only one of them can actually tell me what they do. So do your homework, be prepared. The other thing I like is for people to come, and it's fine to bring a little notebook with you that's got some notes you've made and some questions in. I like people to have made an effort to think about some questions they might like to ask me, so that they are really showing that they are actively interested in the role in the company. And I'm not looking specifically for my area in events for them to have done, for example, a course related to events management. What I would prefer is for them to maybe, and some people bring along a little portfolio of examples of stuff they've done. And it could be as simple as, I helped my aunt prepare for her wedding and I did X, Y, Z, that they can show I've done some hands-on experience of the sort of thing that they would like to do. And it need not necessarily be actually doing the job, but doing something like the job. And that's why when I've done the some of the CV workshops, it's important on your CV to think about work-like or experience-like things that you can put on that CV, because they're really, really important.
Wonderful, thank you, Emily. Some really useful hints and tips for our listeners there. I know that you need to shoot off now for your meeting.
Okay.
Thank you very much for joining us and for sharing your experience with us.
No worries. See you all soon. Bye-bye. Bye.
Bye. Bye. Great. So I'm going to hand over to Keeley now, who works at TT Electronics.
Hello. Right, I think I've unmuted now. Can you hear me? Yeah? Brilliant. Thank you, Charlotte and Fiona, and to Emily. I know she's gone off now, but that was a really good talk from someone who's very, very busy working at the moment, and I know it's a different time for everybody. So thanks for everybody for dialing into this webinar. Charlotte said, my name's Keeley Jeffries, and I work for a company called TT Electronics. I'm based, my office is in Lutterworth, although I've not been there for around about 8 weeks at the moment from working from home. So my role is the Channel Development Manager. So at TT Electronics as a whole, we're an engineering company. At my site in Lutterworth, we manufacture semiconductors and discrete parts for transistors. So the very, very tiny parts that go into things, sort of radios, aeroplanes, and satellites. So we're really working in the aerospace and defence and military sectors. As you can imagine, at the moment, it's a bit of the area is grounded pretty much. So it's a difficult time, but as Emily just alluded to in her talk, that things will come out of this a lot better. So we're looking forward to that. But how I got into this particular role was kind of by chance a little bit. So I went to university and I studied English and journalism, which I wanted to do at the time. And then after 3 years of doing it, I didn't really want to do it anymore. So I applied for a lot of jobs out and about to do with PR, to do with media, and that kind of thing, and got rejected from a lot of the interviews for lack of experience. As it turned out, after about 6 months after I graduated, I managed to get a job at a nut and bolt distributor. So literally metal nuts, bolts, washers. And I worked there for 7 years. And while I was there, I managed to do a whole range of things within the company. So customer management, taking orders, giving quotations, purchasing. Some parts I was even down in the warehouse putting nuts and bolts into a box and shipping them out the door. So through that, I also did my accounting AAT qualifications. So I was in the accounts department there as well. After 7 years, I couldn't get any further in this company, so I wanted to really, branch out and see what I could do. Now I knew that where my strengths were after trying lots of different areas of the business. Personally, I like talking to people, I like meeting new people, and I'm pretty good at kind of selling things, I think. So I applied for this role at TT, and what my role entails is distribution management. So we make parts at our branches and we sell them out into the channel, into the market through different channels. So I have around about 18 different distribution partners that I work with globally that we sell our parts through. So my job is to manage those accounts and the relationships and feed back information from them and the market into the business, what they're going to be buying, so therefore what we need to be making. It's been an amazing role. I will have been there for 3 years in August, and it's gone very quickly, and it's taken a lot of time for it to really sink in to what my role needs to be. But I feel I've really morphed it into what I feel good at and what I can add to the role. So I've been lucky enough in 2019 to travel. I did 33 flights in about 8 months last year. So that was a really busy year, but I got to visit places like Beijing in China, Germany and Madrid on several occasions, and the States. In fact, this time last year I was in the States. So visiting the customers there, but also getting to take a little bit of vacation time and trying to see a few things. So really making the most of the opportunities that came my way. Now, when I first applied for university, I was not thinking that I was going to be a customer relations kind of person working in the aerospace industry. I had no idea what I wanted to do. I pursued English and journalism at university because I liked journalism and I was good at English. I didn't really like English. I was just good at it, so I carried it through. As it turns out, through the 3 years of university, things completely switched, and I realised I didn't really like journalism, the act of reporting, but I got to learn a lot about English language and literature, sort of medieval poetry, back up to Shakespeare, up to Jane Austen and the classics. And I found I really enjoyed learning that, and hands in, I was good at it. So that's what I chose to pursue then through university. So I had no idea I would be 7 years in a job selling nuts and bolts. It was really not something you prepare for, but I didn't have a clue. I had no idea, no dream job, no aspirations to be a doctor or a vet or anything like this. I just wanted to do a job, and I wanted to do it well. I wanted to be trusted enough to be able to mould a particular role into my strengths, and I feel that was what I did in those 7 years at my first company. Now within TT, it's a really good organisation to be able to allow me to do that. We've got sort of 6,000 employees all across the world, different sites, different divisions. So where I make aerospace parts, we also have connectors that we make. We make hybrid microcircuits. We also make, we're making some parts that go into ventilators at the moment, which was a big deal in recent times over in the States. So it's a varied company, but the options and the opportunities that they give are fantastic, because I've been able to pursue a lot of external work, i.e. with Leicestershire Cares and other volunteering organisations, to really try and talk to younger people, because for me, in working in engineering, I do not have a technical bone in my body. I am not an engineer. So I'm learning constantly within this role, and learning what I like and what I don't like, and what I can interpret and hopefully pass on and teach to younger people that really want to get involved in engineering. Particularly looking at women as well in this industry, because there aren't so many in higher places particularly, but also engineering is not perhaps a career that people would consider when they're looking at what they want to do after school and after university. So from what I've learned, I wish I'd done it, because as I say, I'm rubbish at drawing and wasn't that good at science. But when you start to get into a role and you can make it your own with your strengths, it's really, really rewarding. When you know that you're making parts that go into a braking system that go on an aeroplane, you know, it transforms you. I was terrified of flying when I started in this role, literally terrified. And then as it became part of my job to travel, I would never let it stop me. But then I started to understand, oh, okay, well, the wings the brake flaps are changing because they've got transistors in them that we've made. And, you know, the brake pumps are working because we've got parts in the fuel pumps and the brake apertures. So it was a really positive kind of thing that turned my mindset, and now I love it. Unfortunately, so far this year, I've not had to travel anywhere, which is, I'm missing it a little bit, I must admit. But also, you know, it's equally good being at home in this time. So it's really made me reflect on how much I've learned in a short space of time at this company in nearly 3 years. And also it's made me want to keep up to date with my CV and what I can actually offer as a person to a role. So the CV, I mean, some of you may have had opportunities to work, to take part in the CV workshops that Leicestershire Cares offer, or the mock interview techniques, which is a really, really good opportunity to have a practice at an interview. Perhaps some of you have been lucky enough to have real life interviews. But it's really good to get everything that you can down on your CV that you can offer, because that's your ticket in the door to a job. Once you are offered an interview, as Emily was alluding to previously, do your research and really look into a company that you're going to try and get a job in, because an interview works two ways. You know, they're interviewing you for the job, but you're also interviewing that place. You're going to work for a long time. You want to be working in a place that suits your needs. You know, you want to agree with their ethics and their morals, and also what they can offer, and that they are going to be the right place for you to spend your time. So that's really good to have that research in the back of your mind for when you do get the interview. But it's your CV that gets you that ticket in the door. That's that one document that you're going to use throughout your life. I mean, I'm 30 plus at the moment, and I still use my CV record, the template that I made in, I don't know, when I was 12 or 13, or, you know, in high school. Because it works, and it's a document that works, and you keep updating it with the regular information, and then that's your ticket in the door. As soon as you get into that interview, they know everything that's written on that CV. They know all that about you. What your job is then to do is to make them get to know you, see what you can offer as a person to that role that you're applying for. And it's a really positive way of bringing to life everything you've put on that piece of paper to make them want you as part of your team. So CV work is a really positive and a good piece of advice that I would offer to go into that. But ultimately, I think it is to work to your strengths and what you are good at. As I say, I was good at English. I didn't particularly like it, but I got to like it because I was good at it. And you get different skill sets throughout the different things you do in life, whether it's work experience in a shop, or with your families, or or anything like that, any experience that you can gain a small skill from. You may have heard the phrase, you know, adding another string to your bow, and it's brilliant because you can't replicate that. The things that you can learn from and add to your skill set makes your skill set unique, and that is your selling point. That is your USP, your unique selling point to that interviewer. Is this is what I can do, this is what I've learned, and this is what I can add to your company. Because that's what they want. They want someone who's going to be a part of their team and ultimately add value, whether it's monetary or in other ways, but add to their company. And that's really the kind of thing that they want to see when you're going for these interviews. So yeah, it's really good to work to your strengths, because you're going to be working for a long time, as I say. So you really want to be, you know, learning on the job, but enjoying it, because, you know, it's not these are very unprecedented times that we're living in at the moment. So it's not very often that you get to have a 6-week holiday when you're working in your working life as opposed to at school. So it's pretty difficult for some people at the minute, but there are jobs out there. I already know of 2 people that I've spoken to in the last week who have had interviews over Zoom and over Skype and things like that for different jobs. So you know, life is still continuing, even though it's a new, different kind of normal that we're experiencing at the moment. So I would advise to keep up with your work and your research and things like that, keep in that zone. And, you know, when restrictions are lifted and we can kind of start to slowly get back into a working environment, there will be companies that have suffered, that are looking to rebuild, that are looking to prosper with their teams, their new teams that they want to add in. So I think it's really important to use this time productively and really start to sell you as that package to wherever you want to go within your careers. So yeah, I've waffled and rambled a little bit there, but hopefully that's given some people some sort of advice. I don't know if there's any questions, Charlotte?
I don't think we have any at the moment, unless anyone wants to add any to the chat, but that was really helpful, really comprehensive, Keeley, thank you. I was going to ask you, like, oh, what skills do you think you got from uni, and then you kind of answered it anyway. Thank you so much. It was really useful, really insightful, and I think some really key learning points there from Keeley about, you know, just making sure, as Emily said as well, make sure you do what you enjoy, because you are going to be working for most of your life probably, so it is important you enjoy it and it plays to your strengths, but you can also build your strengths into your role as well and adapt it the other way. So thank you so much, Keeley, that was really insightful, and thanks for sharing your experience. I think, unless anyone's got any final questions, I think we're done. So thank you very much everyone for joining us. I think that went quite well, so as a first go, I think that's good. Great. We'll leave it there then, but thank you again to both Emily and Keeley for joining us and sharing their experiences with us today. Thank you everyone for joining as participants as well, and we will hopefully be setting up another one of these in a couple of weeks' time, so we'll share the information about that with you all. Thanks very much everyone, and have a lovely rest of the day.
Thank you.
Brilliant, thank you.